I'm Gary Anthony Ramsey with your Hour News Now Rewind. Stories making headlines for the week ending November 20th, 2010. Our top stories include: the president's civilian terror trial policy takes a blow as one suspect is acquitted on all but one of his charges. Congressman Charles Rangel is found guilty of House ethics violations but calls the proceedings unfair. The highest African American in Congress is demoted as Democrats elect new leadership positions. A postal worker is fired after revealing the details of a racial attack. Seattle police are investigating one of their own seen kicking a teenager on video. And two legendary songwriters help needy families celebrate the holidays. Our top story. For months, President Barack Obama has been criticized for committing to try terror suspects who were languishing in Guantanamo Bay in civilian courts. At first, the risk was seen as a security one, but now it may be a political one as well, as the first of those suspects to be tried in that system is acquitted on all but one of the charges he faced. The New York jury deliberated for more than 7 days before finding Tanzanian Ahmed Galliani guilty of one count of conspiracy to damage or destroy U.S. property by means of an explosive device. Prosecutors say Galliani faces minimum sentence of 20 years in prison with a maximum of life. He was acquitted of more than 280 other counts, including murder and attempted murder. Those charges related to deadly bombings in Kenya and Nairobi. Galliani was captured in Pakistan in 2004, then held by the CIA for 2 years before being transferred to the U.S. detention center in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Last year, the decision was made to bring him to New York to be tried. His lawyers allege that he was tortured while in CIA custody. Conservatives have said that all terror suspects should be tried in military tribunals that are more restrictive for defendants and their lawyers. One congressional lawmaker found guilty of House ethics violations claimed that he was denied the right to proper counsel, but still tearfully plead with the panel in judgment. A subcommittee found New York Representative Charles Rangel guilty on several counts after a 2-year investigation, including allegations of abusing his office and engaging in financial misconduct. The 80-year-old Rangel, who used to be chairman of the powerful House Ways and Means Committee, asserted that he may have been careless, but he was not a criminal.
I have never blamed staff, my family, or anyone for my irresponsible behavior as it relates to violation of the House rules.
Meanwhile, the GOP blocks a measure that would have extended unemployment benefits for Americans, those benefits set to expire at the end of the month. The Congress has let jobless benefits lapse twice already this year, as Republicans insist the cost of $160 billion in the last fiscal year be offset by cuts elsewhere to prevent the nation's $14 trillion in debt from growing further. Democrats say they will take up the measure again, but lawmakers are set to leave next week for the Thanksgiving holiday. At first, it seemed that there might be a fight in Congress among Democrats as many members jockeyed for fewer leadership positions. But now apparently a deal is in place that will put an African-American lawmaker back in the line of leadership. James Clyburn of South Carolina, the current Democratic whip, was running to keep his job that was also being sought after by current Majority Leader Steny Hoyer of Maryland. At first, the Congressional Black Caucus had threatened to not support Nancy Pelosi for Majority Leader if Clyburn were not re-elected to the position of whip. Well, a compromise was reached in which a third position was created and where Clyburn will now assume. In Massachusetts, a postal worker is fired after he reveals that he was attacked by a woman last year who peppered him with racial slurs and then allegedly slapped him. We have the video, and we warn you, portions of this exchange are graphic in nature.
Nigger thief. You want me to lock you up for life, you asshole? Give me my stiff shit back.
Ma'am.
And I'm not prejudiced, but right now I'm getting real pissed off.
Ma'am, why are you calling me names? I mean, I'm just delivering your bill.
Because you're acting like a nigger. Now give me the cards back.
The post office says the driver was fired for unrelated job issues. The Hingham Police Department reports that the postal worker had originally filed a complaint, but then withdrew it. In Seattle, police are once again investigating one of their own. This time, a police officer is seen kicking a teenager on videotape. The video shows the teenager in a brown jacket walking into a store with a friend. Later, people are seen running past the door, and the teens go outside to watch the commotion. The teen comes back inside the store, but is followed by an undercover officer who has not been identified by Seattle police. As the teen raises his hands, the officer kicks and punches him. The barrage is broken up by a uniformed officer. The 17-year-old was charged along with 4 others for assaulting cops in a buy-and-bust operation that failed a few blocks away. The undercover officer, who is a 10-year veteran of the Seattle PD, has been put on administrative leave while Internal Affairs investigates. This is the 4th allegation of police brutality made against the Seattle PD in less than a year. To see these videos in their entirety, just go to the bottom of the Our News Now webpage and click on the video box. In your Our News Now World Wrap, cholera kills more than 1,000 people in Haiti, spreads across the island, and affects at least 1 person here in the U.S. Officials say a Miami woman returning from a visit with relatives in Haiti came down with the illness last week. Symptoms of cholera include fever, diarrhea, dehydration, and vomiting. Death can occur quickly if the disease is untreated. Thousands of Haitians have been protesting what they say is slow action on the part of the government and international aid agencies on the island. More than 12,000 people in Haiti have been diagnosed from cholera so far. In Nigeria, a military operation rescues 19 hostages who were taken from an oil rig back on November 8th. The government says militants like the one engaged in the rescue have cut Nigeria's oil production by 1/3 in the last year. The rescue was the first time the Nigerian military has successfully freed hostages without any of the captives being killed in the process. The freed workers include 2 Americans, 2 Frenchmen, 2 Indonesians, a Canadian, and 12 Nigerians. Well, a recent suggestion to end farm subsidies as part of a proposed deficit reduction strategy has renewed international calls to end those subsidies to U.S. cotton growers. Cotton growers in West Africa have long said those subsidies making it impossible to compete and survive. African farming advocates say the subsidies that total more than $1 billion a year are artificially boosting world cotton supplies and keeping prices low. Europe has similar subsidies for its farmers. For more than a decade, protesters have asked the World Trade Organization to influence the U.S. to end those subsidies. That's your World Wrap. In entertainment news, Oprah Winfrey and Whoopi Goldberg settle a 20-year-old beef that's apparently not a beef at all. On Oprah's show celebrating the 25-year anniversary of The Color Purple, Winfrey and Goldberg, who haven't spoken to each other in years, both admit it was just a misunderstanding.
All these years, I thought that you thought, I don't know what I thought.
It's crazy.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And neither woman could recall what the rift was even about. And finally, 2 legendary performers lend a hand to help needy families celebrate Thanksgiving. Ashford and Simpson, who either wrote or sang many hits from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, teamed up with the James Brown Foundation to hand out 40 free turkeys to families picked by the First Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church.
We're adding gift cards that are not cheap so they can complement their turkeys, and we're just glad to be a part of this event.
Dad was a giver. He liked to bless people, not just through singing and dancing, but actually giving. And that's the way he raised us, and that's how we're living.
The giveaway, now in its 20th year, was held at Ashford and Simpson's The Sugar Bar in New York. For a complete look at any of the stories you've seen on The Rewind, remember, as always, go to the bottom of the webpage, find the link of the story you'd like to see, and click your way through. That's your Our News Now Rewind for this week. I'm Gary Anthony Ramsey.